Welcome into the show today. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple or Spotify. Thank you for making this podcast a part of your day, or wherever you are making this podcast a part of your day. This podcast is 100% honest, 100% of the time. All right. With the NFL Combine currently happening, everybody's in Indianapolis. GMs, agents, head coaches, prospects. And there's even a lot of drama going down. Jordan Schultz, a reporter for Fox, and Ian Rappaport apparently got into a confrontation at Starbucks in one of the hotels. And Schultz approached Rappaport and apparently had some not very nice things to say, with a couple of expletives thrown in there. And Rappaport called in NFL security. What's this guy doing? From the outside looking in, Rappaport, Schefter, Pelissero, those are the top guys in the business. Those are the guys that get the stories first. Those are the guys that you can trust the most. And a Jordan Schultz, I'm sure he's respected at Fox, and I'm sure he does an amazing job. But you think about the top echelon of reporters. And those top echelon of reporters is the big three: Pelissero, Rappaport, and Schefter. And this is a weekend where egos, reports, who can get it first, who's going to be right. The amount of pressure on NFL reporters is insane, and a pressure that I personally would want no part of. You think about wanting to leave your phone upstairs or downstairs, or just having a break from it to spend time with your family, or go to a sporting event, or just to decompress. And these guys, I would love to hear their schedule, because I don't think they can do that, because they are paid to deliver the big stories, and they are the guys that better deliver those big stories, or they're not doing their job. And there's a constant pressure. So when you get weekends like this, you get guys in the same room reporting different things on the same thing, and there's going to be heat. And that's what we saw. But as far as the Minnesota Vikings are concerned, Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show and shared some interesting takeaways from the Vikings general manager's press conference the other day. Because in Indy, this is the first time they've spoken since the end of year press conference following the Vikings loss to the Rams. And the questions are always going to surround the quarterback room, unless you have a quarterback situation like the Bills or the Chiefs. If you are one of those quarterback needy teams, or you have a revolving door at quarterback, that is the question that you are going to be asked the most, because that position demands the most amount of attention from the team, organization, from the fans, from the media. And Schefter, a common guest on the Pat McAfee show, was interpreting Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's comments at the NFL Combine. And here's what he had to say about Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy.
The Vikings, who are they? So they're just Sam Darnold's going back?
We'll see about that.
Ooh. JJ?
Well, if you listen to the general manager, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, talk yesterday, he certainly talked like a guy whose team was committed to J.J. McCarthy. That was my read between the lines. They haven't said anything.
So Schefter, listening to Kwesi's comments, thinks that the Vikings are ready to depart from Sam Darnold and take the keys of the franchise and give them to J.J. McCarthy and potentially Daniel Jones for a quarterback competition this summer. And what I like to do as a podcaster, I like to have an opinion. But that opinion is lots of times based on the temperature in the room. And even though I'm not in the room or at TCO, you can feel the temperature in the room based on O'Connell's comments, based on what Kwesi has said. These guys have been very consistent in the words that they have said about Sam Darnold, and it sounds very similar to what they said about Kirk Cousins last year. And when you put these pieces together on whether or not the Vikings are going to retain Sam Darnold or let him walk in free agency or tag and trade him, it all aligns with the Minnesota Vikings not bringing Sam Darnold back for the 2025 season, because the Vikings feel they have maximized their time with Sam Darnold. They feel like they want to be aggressive in free agency to bring guys in. Offensive line, defensive line. Kwesi just said it. Just yesterday. Kwesi said in his interview on KFan with PA, who's been a guest on this podcast multiple times, he says, "We know we need to improve. We are going to aggressively attack it because we believe in turning potential weakness into strength." You do not aggressively attack free agency if you are giving a quarterback $41 to $51 million a year, whether that's a tag or resigning for a multi-year deal. You cannot aggressively attack your weaknesses in free agency if you are giving a quarterback that amount of money, which is going to eat up 60 to 70% of the cap space that you have available going into the offseason. So the Minnesota Vikings are not going to bring back Sam Darnold. And at this point in time, I don't see anybody putting out content, whether they're insiders or not, saying that the Vikings will bring back Darnold. When you look at what Alec Lewis and Ben Gessling and Adam Schefter and Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport, the guys that have contacts, the guys that have the inside info, they're basically all reporting the exact same thing. So when Darnold either leaves or is traded, do not be surprised by it, because it has been the consistently reported thing, and it's just the temperature in the room. So Adam Schefter, it's a speculative segment and question that he answered. He's not 100% confident on it, but this guy's been doing it for years. And based on what he said, he kind of spilled the beans on the Vikings plan, but also not really, because it's been the widely understood thought for the last few weeks. And then there's some random people that are like, well, Darnold, could he come back for 2 years? Don't rule it out. You can't technically rule anything out until it's technically done, but it's basically done. You can rule out Sam Darnold returning to the Vikings for the 2025 season because of the Vikings plan with McCarthy, and because of the Vikings plan to aggressively attack free agency and bring in guys for that offensive line and defensive line and secondary. There's 3 large holes on the Minnesota Vikings roster, and those positions need to be filled if the Vikings want to seriously contend for a Super Bowl title. So that's the take for the day. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. And thank you for going on this podcasting journey with me.